Hello, yes, it's Nick Dutch here yet again. Still going through all the principles of Wicca, all the 13 principles of Wicca as written down in 1974. We are now at the 13th video in the series, and I'm talking about 12. Principle number 12. Let's have a look at it. I mean, obviously, so far it's been pretty interesting. I've agreed with all of the above 11 principles so far, every single one of them. Alright? So long as we don't just take the words on a simplistic level, and we can look a little deeper and expand the meanings in accordance with, the way the words are used and understood. Now, 12 says, we do not accept the concept of absolute evil, nor do we worship any entity known as Satan or the devil as defined by Christian tradition. We do not seek power through the suffering of others, nor accept that personal benefit can be derived only by denial to another. Right, now, this one is, so far, probably the only principle which is actually a definition of something which can separate Wiccan thinking from anything else. All the rest of the principles are relatively focused on the individual life growth, accepting that you've got more growing to do, and not saying that your practice is the one and only true way. But number 12 makes it clear that we, namely those who come under the categorization of a Wiccan, don't accept the concept of absolute evil. Now that's important because, if I go and buy some cheap Chinese crap, okay, and it's been made in a sweatshop in China, it may have actually hurt like a little 5-year-old kid, whoever it was, who was working in that sweatshop, but yet I bought it anyway. So has my action actually hurt someone? Possibly. I mean, it's very difficult to go through life without causing some suffering at some way. Not deliberately. Owning this tiny little thing is not hurting anybody, as far as I can tell. But I don't know the history of, the sweatshop that made this thing, okay? But as far as absolute evil is concerned, no. I mean, I personally do not accept the concept of absolute evil. I consider that there's such a thing as different varieties of sickness, animosity, fear, pain, rage, and different varieties of these unpleasant or unsavory emotions or thoughts or feelings. But as far as there being an absolute evil, no, I don't quite accept that. But it says, we do not worship Satan or the devil as defined by the Christian tradition. Now, the fact... this is interesting because it does say, as defined by the Christian tradition. So you could actually be a Satanist, so long as it wasn't Satan that you were worshipping in accord as defined by the Christian tradition. That's interesting. So Satanists are allowed to call themselves Wiccans, if we think about the way the words are being used here. And the second half, the second sentence in this 12th principle, it says, we do not seek power through suffering of others, nor accept a personal benefit can be derived only by denial to another. That's a very good code of conduct to live by. Not everyone does that. Not everyone chooses to try and get by without messing someone right over. So that's actually a very, very beneficial, very positive thing to say there. But of course, yes, I have come across people within the Wiccan tradition who actually did seek power through my suffering. But, can I forgive them? I personally can forgive them, yeah. I mean, he was a sick person, and I can understand that sick people are like that, But as far as, this particular principle was evidently written to separate the popular understanding of what devil worship and Satanism is from Wicca, which is fascinating. But it's got this little sub-clause which says, we don't worship any entity known as Satan or the devil as defined by Christian tradition. So you can still be a worshipper of a being called the devil, As long as it's not defined by the Christian tradition, you're fine. Which is intriguing. But essentially that does allow for worship or reverence of any form of spiritual entity or being, which is also fascinating. So there is a lot of acceptance there. And the main thing is we do not seek power through the suffering of others. So you don't impose suffering upon other people. So that's again another check and balance. As we saw above, there was aspects of the principles which seem to act as like self-developmental things to encourage you to think more about the morality of what you're doing. And this is another one of those opportunities, a moment of contemplation to make sure that what you're doing is not going to cause someone else to suffer, for your personal empowerment. So that's actually quite beautiful. But it's interesting it's got that little like escape clause thrown in there. Okay? Once again, I'm going to stop the video, start the camera up again, and we'll have a look at the final principle. But again, so far, that's 12 principles of the 13 principles of Wicca, which resonates very well with me and that I personally accept. Fascinating. On to the next one in just a moment.